This is the 217 Recovery Podcast with Corey Winfield.
Oh, yeah. So you probably want to get yours up a little bit closer.
Okay.
You can grab just...
All right. And co-host Marnie Winfield.
I got nothing.
Well, let's talk recovery.
Is that, are we supposed to finish that sentence or something?
No. It is the 26th of February, 2023. My name's Corey Winfield.
My name is Marnie Winfield.
And this is the 217 Recovery Podcast. And Marnie, you always have more than nothing, but in that case of the open, I think I was on some weird stuff. I was talking with your dad, and you're just like, hey, I got nothing. You guys are on this conversation alone. So that's what that kind of was about. But yesterday we tried doing a podcast with Tyrone. Mm-hmm. I say try because it took me like an hour to kind of get his microphone situation figured out. And we tried doing it on Zoom, and it was just, it was, the sound quality was not up to par.
Yeah.
And you could pretty much hear everything that Tyrone did, like as far as if he moved his shoulder a half inch or decided to take a drink. It's not on him. It's just the way that microphone was. And he's not a radio guy, like he's not used to the microphone, I think. And just the microphone that I'd sent him, I don't know if that's the one that's going to do it for him.
Sure. And it wasn't the content that wasn't. It was a good podcast. It just didn't sound that great.
Yeah. And it was really picking up his breathing. It's like, talk about something real quick.
What?
That's what I heard. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this, we can't do it. We can't publish it. I tried to like go through and edit some of that stuff out.
So we'll just do it again soon.
Yeah, we will, for sure. Yeah, Tyrone will be on a lot more, especially coming this summer. And if we get the office set up, and you think I should have some kind of recording equipment there, and I think I should too.
I think it's a must.
A must?
Yeah, because not that that's going to be your main studio. This is, your home base.
Yeah.
This is all souped up. How you like it.
Yeah.
So, it's always going to be this as your hub, but I think just because there are going to be so many people that would be great to have on the podcast, and this is like, in our home, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. So it'll just be a professional atmosphere to be able to have people that, to give them an opportunity to be on. That is true.
And that's something that has actually detracted me a lot from having people on is, I don't want people coming to my house.
Right.
And I think I've even said that before, like, oh, well, if we ever get an office, then yeah.
Sure.
But I guess early on when I approached people about funding, they were like, oh, I'm not going to fund your podcast. I said, well, I don't want you to fund my podcast. I want to do transportation, take people to treatments. That's why I'm here. And they're like, oh, okay. But I think now, and especially like people like Adam Brothers, and the Stone Soup Recovery Podcast, like look what that's created for him. Mm-hmm. And there's another one too. But then, the Tribe, I'm helping them start a podcast up here. And, like this can be an outlet for people, podcasting can. There are people who have tried it and failed, and that's okay. And then another guy from the Alpena area, he reached out to me. He was like, hey, we want to do like a recording studio, like what kind of stuff should we buy? And so I'm going to meet with them probably over Zoom or something, but like Wednesday or Thursday, and look what that's going to create. So just by me doing a podcast and being willing to help anybody, especially in the recovery community, start a podcast, and what would they need and what would they, I don't know. Like, I think that's huge.
Absolutely. And actually, if you really break it down, if you think about the purpose of why it is that, like, for example, for you doing the podcast, we can say it's therapeutic.
It is.
Clinically, actually, if you were to be putting together a treatment plan for a client and they're like, what do we tell them to do, right? When they're sitting down, we say, one of the things that's a huge thing that therapists come up with is for people to journal. right? To write down their thoughts and their feelings and what they've done in the day, where they've been challenged, what they've tried and failed at, what they've succeeded at, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we do on the podcast. This is one big journal. This is one, big piece of like what I choose to look at as this is fuels my recovery, and it's part of my therapy. And I don't think it's too far off to say that it's kind of a clinically acceptable way of partaking in your own, recovery journey.
Yeah, I've never really thought of it as an audio journal, but that's kind of what it is. I can go back to the pages and listen.
It's kind of exactly what it is.
Maybe
Think about Dear Diaries. I mean, there's no rules, man. You just write.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, so maybe I should or shouldn't be afraid to put things like microphones on the list of, equipment that we can need. And what if we set up the studio where people would have like times, like Bobby comes in on Monday at 10 to do his therapy session, his podcast session, where he goes through the day or just goes through his week and things that are bugging him. And he doesn't have to publish it to everybody. I mean, he can publish it if he wants. He probably should, but he doesn't have to give everybody a link to it. But he'll find that the stuff that he's talking about, there are other people that are having those same problems or issues, especially in early recovery. So,
Sure.
It's interesting.
You'd be surprised. I mean, lots of the times the people that come into that are out seeking counseling, more often than not, they just need to be a safe place to be able to talk through what's on their mind.
I was listening to Adam's podcast the other day, and I can tell he's really trying to hone his skills at being an interviewer.
Okay.
It's fun to watch Adam. Like, I can go back and listen to his first episode. I remember episode 2 or 3, he was like kicking himself like, oh, I suck. Oh, hey, it's working out the kinks. It's figuring it out. And I bet he laughs now, listening to this, because he even knows, like, I'm sure he's building confidence in himself. He has a purpose. It doesn't matter if 1 million people listen to his podcast or if it's just me listening to bust his balls. Like, he's doing it for himself. And that's the beauty of it all. You're doing something for yourself. And sure, it costs money, and at first I had to start out with nothing, just basic ass stuff, but it can be done. And over time, I'm not drinking, not doing any of that. You start having a little bit more money, and it doesn't cost that much money. Just it shocks people sometimes. I mean, Tyrone, he's saving up for a car. He's been saving a year. Like sometimes you have to save up. Like I want a drone, but my allowance doesn't allow that yet. I have to save up, because if I just kept money in my bank account, then I'd spend it every day. So if I want something, well, I can save up for it.
Yep.
And that's what I did. I bought a camera I was excited about. I didn't get to tell my eBay experience. It was my first experience in a bidding war.
All right.
I lost. 2 seconds left. It was horrible.
Do you have a wah, wah, wah button?
I do, but I'm not going to play it. I'll play harp.
Oh, okay. There you go.
That's the way Jesus didn't want me to have that.
Yeah.
He wanted me to get the other camera. So thanks, Lord. Appreciate it. Thanks for saving me the trouble. Because the camera that I wanted, like the guy set it up, the pictures look great. And there were 2 cameras, and they both came with the same lens. It was a 25 millimeter 1.7 aperture, which means like you can like film people and like I can get your face clear, but the stuff behind you is like blurred.
Okay.
So the lens alone is like $150, and it was coming with a camera and a lens, and it was like $300.
Wow.
And there was another one the other day that was $330, same thing, but the pictures weren't as nice, like the pictures of the product, and they're both used. And that one was $330, and then that guy dropped it to $320. So I'm like, okay, well, if I don't win this bidding war, then I can maybe just get that other one. So it wasn't a big deal, but I lost, man. And I waited. I kept checking to see it was still $300, and then like 6-7 minutes before it was going to end. It went up to 306. I'm like, that guy's an idiot. What's he doing bidding now?
Well, you were probably dealing with some cutthroat,
Yeah, so I waited and
Bidding.
TikTok. Well, I was the cutthroat guy, I thought.
You thought is
Yeah.
the key word of that.
Yeah. And so I was like, man, it went down to something like a minute. I was like, oh, should I do it in like 30 seconds? I think I did it. And then it went up to like 311. And then I thought, okay, I'll just wait here then. And then with like 5 seconds to go, I hit in at 316.
Should have waited. No, should have waited.
And I was like, yep, honey, I got. And this is like, got out. It was, you've been outbid. 1 second, 0. I was like, what the F? That's how that happens, huh? Because I've always just used eBay to buy things, not to like bid on stuff.
Yeah,
My adrenaline was going. I didn't like it.
I've never done it.
It's not fun. It's not fun at all, especially when you lose 2 seconds left or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible.
Well, you ended up getting the same camera, right?
Yeah, but the other one, this one's gray, silver, so that might even be cooler. But like I said, she just didn't want me to have that one.
Okay.
So that's fine. It's cool. I'm good with it. So yeah, and then I was like, oh crap, because I figured whoever lost this one would just jump on there and buy that one like I did. So I just went over there, hurried up and bought the other one. I was like, all right, cool. You're like, how much was that? I was like $2. Like a child. I was like, it was just $2. That's it. You're like, no, what was it? You whipped out your stick. You're going to hit me with it. Like,
Oh my gosh.
How much was it?
No, I was just curious.
I was like, I'll take out the kitty litter for the next 3 months. I'll unload the dishwasher every morning.
Oh my gosh.
Just let me have it.
It is not like that, people. Just so you know.
No, and it's funny because like I asked you, I'm like, how much is my allowance? And you're like, what? You're a grown man. What are you talking about? Who did I marry? Who did I marry?
No. I know. I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah. It's like, well.
And I'm thinking to myself, is this him really like telling me I have zero trust in myself and my impulse buying?
It goes back to the old student loan thing. Like, I'm not going to live forever.
Yeah.
Not promised tomorrow, So, yeah, I live for today sometimes. And when I see numbers in my bank and they get bigger, it's my job to make them smaller.
Yeah, and this is a person who's responsible for our business now.
Yeah.
Makes you nervous.
Yeah. It's funny. It shouldn't make you nervous, though, because that I take a little bit more serious. But when it's my monies, then it's like, I do need that drone.
Never mind, seeing if your wife needs anything.
No, because if the numbers are higher than the numbers on that drone, well, I don't see why not. It just makes sense to me. So knowing that, as I go to you and go, honey, here's my check, and I'll keep a little bit just so I can, save up for a drone. But in all fairness, I cut my own hair. I do my own nails.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes.
Well, not my toenails. Those are like quarterly. Every quarter I try to get to them. I think that's pretty fair for a guy. Mm-hmm. I'd say once a quarter, 4 times a year, you trim toenails. Is that?
If it needs to be done, it needs to be done. I don't think that you can go by the calendar year.
You probably wish I would, because I probably maybe really do it like twice a year.
I don't know. Do your shoes still fit you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't know if that's a guy thing or what. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a me thing. Don't know. Stereotyping guys. That's what I do. I'm gonna use that in an open.
You probably will.
I might. So yeah, that was interesting. That was fun. And that's the beauty of being in recovery, is those little things that you can experience and do for the first time, like bidding on eBay and just having a sense of, I don't want to say accountability, self-awareness is more like it. Mm-hmm. Of like having a big number problem is what I call it. It's not even a big number. But if you have a big number, you want to see how much little numbers you can get in to make it smaller. And buying things is my problem, I guess. So yeah, so being self-aware, I know this, and I say, hey, here you go. Before we have 8 drones in here.
Yeah.
Because remember, I started with 1 camera.
I know.
And I was like, Mom, I need a camera for Christmas. And then they bought a camera. And now I have camera 3 coming, which is going to make our video stuff great. And when we are in the office, which officially on Wednesday, we kind of move in to start putting things together. And then April, hopefully we'll be open. Mm-hmm. But, you know, to set up cameras in there and to do like videos, and not, maybe videos of podcasts, maybe not, interview type
I think
deals.
more spotlights.
Yeah.
For sure. I think the spotlights is going to be a big thing because I think, well, you know, in the 12-step programs, often they have speaker meetings, which is people telling their story, kind of like where they're at, what happened, you know, what things are like now, which is wonderful. And a lot of people, that is kind of a milestone for them. And nobody really has to say when it is that people are, you know, when it's appropriate for people to actually give those talks. Obviously, you don't want them to be like 3 days sober. But at the same time, when we've reflected on this before, and we're like, lots of times people want to hear what people with a month and a half, you know, have to say about how they're doing and maybe what they're challenged with and what they feel like are potential triggers for them and how they got through that. I mean, those are key, that's important information for people who are at a month sober.
Yeah.
To hear what it's like to be a month and a half sober, you know, opposed to like, yeah, great. I love hearing what people with 5 years have to say. That's wonderful. But when they're in the real, you know, giving real time info on what it's like in early recovery and how they're sticking with it, that message can be exponentially important to people that need to hear it. So, you know, that was my thoughts on it.
And those are great thoughts. And I don't know if I pushed those towards you thinking wise. I don't think I did. You know, I think those are your own thoughts. And it's spot on. And we change. You know, the guy that I was when I told my 1 year is way different than I'm different than I was then. You know, I think about things different. Like if you listen to my story from December 15th, 2019, I cringe, you know, because there was a lot of blaming people. I was blaming other people still. And now I take accountability for everything that I did. It wasn't nobody else's fault. Like the more you put distance in between the guilt, the shame, or whatever it is, you know, that you don't want to take responsibility. Oh, it was their fault. It was somebody else's, this and that. The more you become accepting of your part in it, your role, which is 100% of it most of the time because you're the one doing it. Unless somebody's got you tied up or, you know, and that stuff does happen too, though, for real. But with me, it never did. Nobody was tying me up, pouring liquor down my throat.
Sure.
So, but yeah, so we change. And I kind of noticed that early on too, when I was doing the podcast, and it was like, this is refreshing. You know, I'd hear or see people at meetings with 3, 4 years, 5 years talking. And I'm like, wow, like, okay, I have no idea what you're talking about. I can't relate to that. I'm only at 90 days, you know, like I'm trying to get month 4 down. Like, let's slow down, man. And it was kind of overwhelming for me, but that kind of let me open up and talk about it on the podcast. Like, hey, here's what I'm going through. And I don't know if people listen to the podcast now realize that if they can go back to the very beginning and listen to when I had 3 months sober and the issues and the things I was dealing with as I lived in sober living, you know, so it's kind of interesting to go back and listen. But yeah, totally different person today than I was then. And I realized that people that are in very early recovery, they need that assurance that they can get to month 4, 5, 6, 7, and they can get their year coin.
The other thing also is as you're growing and as you're, I guess, healing might even be the right word in your, you know, recovery, we've kind of started to do maybe some of the harder work, the harder life work, right? So like unpacking that trauma and learning about ourselves and working through some of the stuff that we've been through. And it does changes kind of our outlook on things and how we view things, and recognizing the talk that we gave at 1 year sober isn't the same talk that we give at 2 years sober. That's exactly why, is we continue to grow, and we continue to learn about ourselves and live healthier lives and repair relationships and void out unhealthy relationships. And it's none of this happens overnight. None of it happens overnight. And I think the people that have 5 years need to hear from people that have, 2 months and 3 months. And that's why I think that why people continue to go back to the rooms as well. The people that really are drawn to 12-step program, one piece of those 12-step groups is because it's people from all different varieties in lengths of time of sobriety. And so they kind of refresh each other, learn from one another, etc. The podcast is just could be different spotlights at different people's times of their sobriety. Maybe you talk to somebody who just came back from a relapse, who had 2 years sober, who knows, and see what, their take is on things, because we learn from those people. And it's a platform for them to be able to share and, get back on track.
And some people fear that, they shouldn't be talking. And I'll say his name, Scott Kelly. He's from Bases. It's a, therapy thing in Charlevoix, Michigan. And we were at a AA meeting. I don't know, whatever stays in the rooms, whatever's supposed to be, okay, whatever's said in there stays in there. Anyway, he was talking about this guy who, clearly I don't follow that rule, at least in this case. But there was a guy that I guess had a year clean, and then they interviewed him in the paper, and then shortly after that he relapsed. And so I don't know if Scott took it personal or what, but he was just stood up and he kind of looked at us, who were doing this podcast, and he's like, this is why people have to wait 5 years before they say anything publicly about their recovery. And I'm like, okay, dude, I'm feeling some kind of way now because you're looking right at us. You're talking about that guy, but we're doing a podcast, and it was a personal thing for him. I think maybe he worked with a guy. I have no idea, but that fueled my fire a little bit to think, well, F you, buddy. Like if you're talking to me, I'm not listening because I'm still doing the podcast because A, it's for me, and B, because people in early recovery might find it useful to hear what I'm going through. Maybe they can relate to it.
All right, I got something for you.
Okay.
What's worse? Interviewing somebody who has a year sober and then they go out and relapse, or interviewing somebody who has 5 years sober and then they go out and relapse?
Well, for those people who like the numbers game, they say, well, if you make it to 5 years and you're 92% or 81, whatever number they want to make up, more likely to never use again the rest of your life.
So that's what I'm saying. So hypothetically speaking, would he have felt better if the person that they interviewed and then they printed the article about was 5 years sober and then he went out and relapsed?
He's saying that if you have 1 year sober, the number is only 25% or whatever. Again, I'm making these numbers up. But he's ready to take his chance that you should just wait to 5 years so you can hit that number of, well, now you got 92%. Like, he's a numbers guy. On day 120 of my sobriety, maybe it was before then, I had decided that I was good with not ever drinking again. And that I was just going to not ever drink again and hopefully take it day at a time. Today it's still working out, so that's the beautiful thing. I don't know. Like maybe some people don't have that. Maybe some people are still, they can get to that year, they can get to that 5 years, whatever, and still think in the back of their head, I can drink one day. One day I'll be able to drink again. I will never say that to myself. I will never say, well, maybe in 50 years or maybe on a rainy Sunday when Marnie's away, I'll never think that I can ever drink again. Mm-hmm. That's just it,
right.
But again, with him saying that though, for me at the time, it was just like really like, oh, okay, that's where we're going with this. But I kind of see where he's coming from. And again, I think he took it personal, but there are people that come to me like, hey man, I want to start a podcast. Let me help. And then I do an intro for them. They do a couple episodes. They start getting a little cocky with some stuff, but deep down, they don't have that desire that I had to not drink. They're just going to go through the motions and do stuff that's going to make other people happy. They're not doing the stuff to make themselves happy. And then they fail. They can start it again if they want. You know, that's up to them. You know, but I'm not going to say you should not be doing a podcast because you only have 3 months clean. I wouldn't say that to them. You know, personally, I think you're in the same boat with me. You know, it doesn't mean they should jump on and start a podcast. And a lot of people want to come on this podcast, and depending on the person, sometimes they say, well, let me know when you have 6 months. Let me know when you have a year. You know, as more of a goal for them to get their year.
Sure.
You're not going to have him on today, whatever. I had a friend of mine on, and he was drunk, trying to pass it off like he was sober, you know, and he just got his 2 years. So big congrats again to him. But yeah, it's just one of those things, like me having someone, I don't care, whatever, man. But to me, to give them a little inspiration, motivation, I guess. And they can still hang out. We could do stuff, but yeah, not going to be on the podcast every year, buddy. You know?
Yeah.
Strive for something. But no, and then I could kind of take people under my wing and show them how to do videos or show them how to do a podcast. Yeah, that'd be fun too. But who knows what the future brings?
Yeah.
We watched a show today that it was the season finale, and it was kind of bittersweet.
Well, it's one of those things where they left it exactly how they wanted it to. They wanted everyone to be like, I want more. I want to know more.
1923. It's the third spinoff of Yellowstone. And it's renewed for another season. Just, it'll probably be a year before we get it.
I just need to forget about it. I'm just going to forget about the show.
Yeah.
That way it's not like counting the days.
I liked it. I liked it better than 1878 or whatever it was.
The one with Tim McGraw.
Yeah. I mean, I like that one. It's not, neither one of them are as soap opera-ishy. That's not a word. I just made it up. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? But Yellowstone's just out of control. It's comical. It's kind of sad because it's so comical. And I could see why Kevin Costner's like, all right, I'm done. I've had enough. Not that he's saying that. He's just saying, hey, if we're filming my stuff, I'm going to do it in a week. So line up all my shots. I think it's because he doesn't want to beat it anymore. And then Matthew McConaughey is supposed to have a spinoff. Be a lot cooler if he did. You know, wait, what did he say? Thing about high school cowboys. I get older and they stay the same age.
Cowboys.
Let's go brand some stuff, man. Hey, you got a hot iron? No, I don't. Huh. Be a lot cooler if you did. Sorry. All my dazed and confused.
Yeah, I know. You love that line.
Yeah. So it was a good show, though. I started looking for... I like that Spencer guy. Spencer Dutton. I like that character. His name's Brandon something in real life. But he was in some other movies, a couple of not real big roles.
Right.
We watched trailers.
Yeah. You wouldn't even recognize... I don't think you would even know that you would remember him at all if you watched it.
They had him lifting some weights before he did 1923. So he's a lot bigger and buffer. He's more filled out.
Yeah.
You know, you see the stuff that he's in before and you're like, wait, what? He's about 40, 50 pounds lighter. Just kind of looks weird.
And younger, too. So that plays a big, kind of boyish.
And it was only like 5 years ago
Right.
that he was in those. So he's got some aging issues. But we'll see. And we'll wait for the new season 2 coming, who knows when. There's another show that we had been watching, but I don't remember. Oh, The Servant on HBO. Yeah. Now, is that over? Or no, it's on Apple.
That's not over. No.
But This Is Us
needs to be.
Oh, it does. The Servant does need to be over. Like that should have been season 1 and then done. But this is The Last of Us. That's what's on HBO that we've been watching. And then the last episode, I'm like, oh, homeboy's dead.
Yeah.
Because there's some houses in the background that a doctor could be living in, but you're like, she needs to drag him over there. I'm like, honey, she's 12 years old. She's not dragging that 240-pound man across that field.
I just didn't want him to die.
It seems kind of weird because you're like, he's the main character guy. And I'm like, yeah, that does seem weird, but
they showed some stuff from the next season or I don't know, episode or season or whatever, and he's not anywhere in it. So I'm assuming it looks like she's in some kind of like, I don't know, boarding school or something.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, you just kidding. Spoiler alert.
Oh, did you watch that today?
No, it was on after we watched the show. It was like the upcoming stuff.
Oh, yeah. No,
So you just are in and out on your phone. I'm surprised you even follow stuff. You can see like half of shows.
yeah.
You're on eBay.
Yeah.
Auctions.
Yeah. Well, I got to look for office stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, and if you want to help us out with office stuff or suggestions, feel free. If you got a deal or found something or know an office place or person or whatever, taking suggestions. Because we're just winging this. It took me 5 hours to put a desk together yesterday, and then I still had to have Justin help me put the top on it because it was a little habby. So we did that, and then we picked up more stuff today, and I'm not even going to talk about the bad stuff because I just don't have time anymore.
I don't have the mental energy for that.
No, but things don't always go our way. Let's just say that.
Anyway, starting new things takes a lot of work and dedication and time and energy.
Yeah.
So.
And there's a lot of people that are like, hey, let me help you. Let me help you put stuff together. But I think I have control issues and whatever. It's like, no, I'll do it all myself. But I do know that companies and stuff, I need help and we need help. You know, It's hard for me to ask for help. I don't like to do it. And I don't know if it's the Clear Channel thing that when I worked for Clear Channel, it's like I had to do everything by myself or was not getting done. And you just learn to do everything, which is not a way to run anything. You know, I have to trust people.
And there's a difference when you say you have a hard time asking for help. You also have a hard time when people say, I'll help you. And you're like, nope, that's different. Those are two different things.
How?
Because somebody's saying, you're sitting there with no one to help you. And you're like, I have a hard time being like, will you help me? Yes, very true. But you also have people that are like, hey, I can come help you. You want some help? And you're like, nope.
Because I don't think they're serious. I don't think they're honest.
They're very serious. So those are two different things.
Huh. I guess I'll have to hone my listening skills then. Mm-hmm. I guess maybe because, I don't know, I should talk to my therapist about this. I have an appointment coming up this week. Do I look at asking for help as a sign of weakness or something that I don't know about? Like that I'm just...
I think you are afraid that people aren't going to do it like you want. I think it's a control thing.
Yeah. It probably is a little combination of both. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I don't know. I can get you some worksheets on that, though.
Okay, it sounds good. Hey, I'll try it, whatever.
Okay.
Are you offering me help?
Yeah.
See, I can't do that. Yeah,
we can work through it. I mean, I'm not your therapist, but I try not to be.
Mm-hmm. You'll find out who you really married. No, but I'll look into that and I'll talk to my therapist about it on Thursday. And we'll see. But I'll make sure to make a mental note of the help thing and why I do this. Why I need the help. I know I need the help, but I turn it down. I don't ask for it. What's going on? What's going? Why do I do that? Is it a sign of weakness? Am I just afraid they're not going to do it right? Am I afraid they're just saying that they will help out and then I expect them to help out and then they don't show up? I mean, what is why?
Right. It's a good thing to explore.
I'll report back next week. And yeah, we haven't been really doing a lot of podcasts lately, but we've just been so busy with things. And, you know, we tried to do one last night, but like I said, Tyrone. I mean, and it's not his fault at all. But I just felt like I couldn't publish it out there. I think it would have been much. He'd use my
He was a trooper, though, man.
executive decision skills. Yeah,
he was there for us. He's you can depend on him.
I know, because first we're going to do it at 7. Then I told him we need to do it at 7:36 because the auction ended at 7:35. But then I was still dicking around and trying to buy the other camera, so it was like 7:48. And then I think it was like, I don't even know what time, but he was a trooper. And then we wrapped it up like 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I know.
So
I was falling asleep in the chair.
I appreciate Tyrone's dedication and help, and part of it might have been I just bought him a cheap microphone, which it was cheap, but the lady that was doing the video review of it sounded fine.
It always does.
So I got to leave a review on there and tell people, do not buy this microphone. It's horrible. But anyway, that's the podcast for today. So go watch the rest of 1923. I think Justin, our friend, was saying that he was going to wait till it was over and then watch all of them. Bang, bang, bang,
That's
bang,
a good idea.
So if you haven't watched 1923 yet, feel free. 8 episodes.
Yep.
They're not long. It's pretty good.
I like it. It's really good.
I'm not going to spoil anything for you.
There you go.
But it'll leave you with some questions if you listen to our previous podcast about the Yellowstone family tree. And I'm like, where's John Dutton? He's supposed to be 10, 11 years old now. Where's he at? I'm talking about Kevin Costner in Yellowstone, his grandpa. I got some theories now. Okay. Now some things starting to make sense. And it explains what's kind of happened or what did happen in Yellowstone. It's making sense to me. There's a reason he's not around. He's not at boarding school. Anyway, have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon. I'll give you the report on the help situation, and I'll let everybody know what my therapist said.
All right.
All right.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the 217 Recovery Podcast. We hope you come back for our next episode.